Then the surge of the engines again, and the plane rattled past them and lifted into the air. Already it looked as frail and small as a child's toy, tossed about by a strong wind. It turned over their heads and disappeared north, seeming more stable now. Around her, Fran sensed a collective relief. She thought she hadn't been overreacting about the dangers of the flight. It wasn't a southern woman's hysteria. This wasn't an easy place to live. Chapter 2. Jane cut margarine into the flour and rubbed it through her fingers. She preferred the taste of butter in scones, but the field centre ran to a tight budget, and the bird watchers were so hungry when they came in for lunch that she didn't think they noticed. She paused as she heard the plane fly overhead and smiled. It had got off then. That was good. Half a dozen birders who'd been staying at the centre had gone out with it. Fewer centre visitors meant less work for the cook, and when people were stranded here, stuck because of the weather, they became fractious and frustrated. It amused her to explain to a high-powered businessman that there was no way he could buy his way off the island. In a near hurricane, neither the plane nor the boat would go no matter how much cash he offered to the skipper or the pilot, but she disliked the atmosphere in the place when people were marooned against their will. It was as if they were hostages, and they reacted in different ways. Some grew listless and resigned, others became irrationally angry. She added sour milk to the mixture. Although she made a batch of scones every day and thought she could do it with her eyes closed, she'd weighed the flour and measured the milk. That was her way, cautious and precise. There was a square of cheese that had been left unwrapped and needed using, so she grated it and stirred it in too. It crossed her mind that if the boat didn't get out tomorrow, she'd have to start making bread. The freezer was almost empty. She pressed down the scone dough, cut it into circles, and laid them, touching so that they'd rise properly, on the baking tray. The oven was hot enough, and she slid in the tray. Straightening up, she saw a figure in green waterproofs walk past the window. The walls of the old lighthouse cottages were 3 feet thick, and the spray had streaked the glass with salt, so visibility was limited. But it must be Angela, back from doing a round of the Heligoland traps. This was Jane's second season in the Fair Isle Field Centre. She'd come the spring before. There'd been an advertisement in a country living magazine, and she'd applied on the spur of the moment. An impulse. Perhaps the first impulsive act of her life. There'd been a sort of interview over the phone. "Why do you want to spend a summer on Fair Isle?" Jane had anticipated the question, of course. She'd worked in HR and had interviewed countless people in her time. She'd given an answer, something bland and worthy about needing a challenge, a time to take stock of where her future lay. It was just a temporary contract after all, and she could tell that the person on the other end of the phone was desperate. The season was only a few weeks off, and the cook who'd been lined up to start had taken off suddenly for Morocco with her boyfriend. The true answer, of course, would have been far more complicated. "My partner has decided that she needs children. I'm scared. Why aren't I enough for her? I thought we were settled and happy, but she says that I bore her." The decision to come to Fair Isle had been the equivalent of hiding under the bedclothes as a child. She'd been running away from the humiliation, the dawning understanding that Dee had actually found someone else who was just as keen to have a baby as she was, that Jane was alone and almost friendless. When she was offered the job in the field centre, Jane had resigned from her post in the civil service, and because she had holiday still to take, had left at the end of the same week. There was a small ceremony in the office, fizzy wine and a cake, the gift of a book token. The general feeling there was one of astonishment. Jane was known for her reason and her reliability, a cool intellect. That she should pack in